Hey guys, it's Jenny Silver. Many of you are receiving California EDD requests to verify your employment status for your pandemic unemployment assistance claim. If you received UI or PUA, you may be receiving this notification. So I'm going to walk you through each individual type of scenario and what sort of documentation you can or should be submitting in order to have this quickly and easily cleared. Please be sure to use the timestamp menu down below so that you can navigate to your specific type of claim and type of employment status. Additional videos on this topic are also listed down below, so if you have a question in this topic, make sure that you view those additional videos first because they may provide the information that you're looking for. Due to a change in federal laws surrounding pandemic unemployment assistance, all states are required to provide additional documentation as per federal guideline changes and Department of Labor regulations. California is not the only state requesting this information, and if you do not provide it and if you do not reply to the EDD with it, then yes, they can issue you an overpayment notice and have you repay benefits that you have already received in addition to a penalty. However, as long as your claim is legitimate, as long as you provided no false statements and did not provide anything inaccurate on your application, and you are entitled to receive those benefits, as long as you provide the documentation asked for, then there should be no reason for you to repay your benefits. In your UI Online homepage, you will see a notification here in the Action Required section, which is titled You Need to Upload Documents. After you click on the Upload Documents link, be sure to review your own individual letter, as the dates and information within this letter are custom tailored to your own unique claim. The EDD will be asking for documentation on your employment or self-employment claims that you made on your application, which then qualified you to receive those unemployment benefits. They will be asking for documents supporting the time frame prior to your unemployment claim, which can be found in the top area of the letter. So be sure you check here for the date range in which you must provide documentation for. Now, they state here that you do not need to provide documentation for the entire date range, but rather sometime in that range. But it is best to provide as much possible documentation as you can. So if you have documents for that entire date range, then definitely send them over. The EDD provides a list showing what documents they state are approved in order to provide documentation on each different type of verification that they may be trying to obtain from you. They also state that this list is not comprehensive and that you may be able to provide different documents outside of these in order to be approved. In order to avoid any snags in the process, please be sure to provide as many documents as you have available. Now, many of you are wondering if there is something wrong if you have not yet received this notice. Do you need to call the EDD to check the status, or are you all set and you do not need to worry about this? If you have received PUA at any point in time, including receiving PUA as a brief extension for unemployment benefits, then you should still check back to your UI Online account for this notification. There currently is no completion date stated by the EDD for sending out these notices, so please do continue to check your UI Online, your email, your mail, and your text messages to see if you're required to provide this documentation. For the purpose of this video, I am going to include items listed in bold. Anywhere you see something listed in bold, this is something the EDD specifically stated on their approved documents list. However, they did state on that list that the list was not comprehensive and that other documents may be approved. Any items that are not in bold are my own additional suggestions for things that may be included, but I want you to understand that these were not specifically listed on EDD's list. In general, provide as many documents as you can. If you receive this notice and you were self employed, you will need to provide documentation to prove your self employment prior to your unemployment claim. You must provide documents that prove you were self employed at some point within the dates listed on your own unique notice. So, what documents could you possibly provide? Try providing as many documents as you can to avoid any potential issues. Tax returns, Schedule Cs or 1099s, business license, fictitious business name statement, seller's permit, Secretary of State filing, articles of organization, EIN number filings, professional licenses, certifications or filing registrations, written business plans, business bank statements, business invoices, receipts, contracts. For those of you that have received this notice and who were self employed, you may be wondering, do I need to upload the entire tax return? The EDD stated that they would accept tax returns, but they also stated that their list was not comprehensive. A Schedule C is the part of the tax return that shows everything in regards to your self employment. It gives your business or sole proprietor information, it gives the amount of gross income as well as your expenses and deductions. This should be fine to provide, but my EDD contact did state to send as many documents as you have, so it is up to you if you decide that it is best to send the full tax return or simply the Schedule C. Many of you are also wondering if 1099s are okay to submit. Back in the winter when EDD was verifying how much you earned and asking for income verification, they did not accept 1099s because 1099s only showed gross income and unemployment claims are based on net income. I asked my contact at the EDD to confirm that sending a 1099 was acceptable, and he did confirm that yes, a 1099 is another example of the type of document that could be used to prove work history. Next, what if you received this notice, you were self employed, but your business was cash only? The IRS requires self employed net income in the amount of $400 and higher to be claimed on a tax return. So, what documentation should you provide? You should provide your tax return, your business license, or your business contracts, invoices, and receipts. For those of you who did receive this notice, who were self employed, and who did not file a tax return, even though you did have net income over the amount of that $400 threshold, what do you provide? You could file a late tax return to fix that filing issue with the IRS and then provide your return. You could provide a business license, fictitious business name statement, seller's permit. You could provide invoices, contracts, receipts, or a signed affidavit. For those of you who received this notice and you plan to be self employed but did not yet start or profit from your business, you must provide documentation of your plans and efforts to become self employed or start your own business. Documentation must be from within the date range specified in your notice. So, what should you provide? Business license, fictitious business name statement, seller's permit, EIN number filing, articles of organization, Secretary of State filing, professional licenses, certifications, registrations, commercial lease, business plan, business bank accounts, receipts for business expenses for startup, and your tax return if it includes things associated with your business. Next, for those of you that have received this notice, but you were traditionally employed as a W 2 employee, you will need to provide documentation of your work history for employment within the date range specified on your notice. Many of you may be receiving this notice because you received PUA for a very brief period of time, which was applied to you as an extension during a time when the PEUC extension lapsed. What documentation can you provide? You may provide a tax return, W 2s, paycheck stubs, or earning and leave statements. Next, for those of you who received this notice and you had a job offer which was canceled due to the pandemic, you will need to provide documentation of the job offer and that it was canceled due to the pandemic for the date ranges specified in your notice. What documentation should you provide? You could provide a job offer letter or email or other form of correspondence wherein a job was offered, Correspondence from the employer letting you know that the business was closed or not hiring due to the pandemic, a signed affidavit or statement from the employer verifying the offer of employment. For those of you who do not have a written job offer, contact the employer and ask them to write a signed affidavit that they offered you a job which was rescinded due to the pandemic. Have them sign it, date it, and include the employer's business and contact information. Next, for those of you that received this notice and you had planned to return to the workforce but couldn't do so due to the pandemic, you will need to provide documentation of your intent to return to the workforce. My contact at the EDD stated that a person who planned to be employed must prove that employment plan, regardless of the reason the plan did not materialize. EDD is looking for information about what the person was doing for employment or self employment prior to filing the claim. So, what should you provide? Copies of your correspondence with potential employers, including resumes, applications, and emails. Copies of job board, LinkedIn, or other professional profiles in order to search for work, showing creation dates within your required date range. And you can also try submitting a signed affidavit. For those of you who received this notice and you had to stay home with your children due to school closure, which was caused by the pandemic, you will need to provide documentation of your prior employment or your plans to enter the workforce, or self employment or plans to be self employed, and documentation that your children were home due to the pandemic with you as the primary caretaker. What can you provide in this situation? You can provide a job offer letter or proof that you were or were trying to be self employed previously. Correspondence with an employer, resumes, applications, profiles created to attempt to join the workforce, notices and correspondence from the school about the closure or the distance learning requirement. Or you can try a signed affidavit. Remember to send as many documents as you can. For those of you who received this notice and you were neither employed nor self employed prior to the pandemic, you will need to provide documentation of your intent to enter the workforce, which was impacted by the pandemic. The PUA program was implemented to assist those who were working or about to start working and could not due to the pandemic. So, a person who planned to be employed must prove that employment plan, regardless of the reason that the plan did not materialize, is what my EDD contact has informed me. In this scenario, documentation which may work could potentially be copies of your correspondence with a potential employer, resumes, applications, emails, copies of job boards, LinkedIn, and other professional profiles to search for work showing the creation date within your date range, and signed affidavits.